I recently had a chance to chat with my friend Voigt. He's co-founder and CEO of Alt Works and also chair of the North Bay Angels. We talked about their new innovative workstation and how the big trend towards working from home has been boosting their sales. When they launched their first product, it went viral immediately. So I wanted to know from him what they did to make that happen. And because they're about to launch a new product, I was curious how they were looking to try to reproduce that success. One of the biggest unknowns in any product launch is what will be happening in the news cycle at the time. You don't want to be running up against a lot of background noise. Now, this episode had already been embargoed until their planned launch date, but because of the recent civil unrest, it's now been pushed back to an unknown future date. So, it's a lesson you can never control all the variables. Quick update, shortly before this video was scheduled to go live, Che decided to do a soft launch rather than his big blowout as he planned. This was out of sensitivity to the emotions and energy surrounding this BLM protest. He felt this was not the time to be tooting his own horn and making a bunch of noise about an office furniture product. We're going to be talking to him in a few weeks about how he came to that decision and what that meant for this rollout. In addition to interviews like this, Feel the Boot shares tips and advice for early stage founders every other week, as videos on this YouTube channel, as blogs at feeltheboot.com, and as podcasts available at any of the major podcast aggregators. Che Voigt, welcome to Feel the Boot.
Hey, thank you, Lance. I appreciate you having me on. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. How about you?
Bit tired. We got a product launch coming up in a few days. Product launches are always intense. Everything comes down to a day.
It's the nature of being an entrepreneur. It's never enough hours in any day. So why don't you tell me a little bit about what's going on with your company, Altwork?
So it's been a really interesting adventure, like all startups are. As you know, I have experience on both sides of the table, both as an investor and as an entrepreneur, executing chief executive entrepreneur for startups all the way through exit, and then being part of public companies too. So had a bunch of different seats, but always busy, always stuff to do. What's been going on for Altwork, which is a company that myself and our former partner at the last company that we built up and sold, we started that company to reimagine the way people work with their computers. And what we ended up with was a computing system that allows the person to go from sitting to standing to full recline, all while the monitor and desk moves around them seamlessly. So we've had a great product with a lot of really fantastic customers. We launched that product and made its first deliveries at the end of 2016. And we've been growing that product ever since. With what's been interesting for us is the work from home shift really skyrocketed our sales. So for the last couple of months, we've been dealing with that, which is good news, but it still, has put a stress on our systems. And we also, in response, we've been working on a new product that we'll be launching on the 3rd of June, releasing. We've been working on it in secret for a long time, but it is a variation of the Alt Workstation that we're calling the Altwork Flex series versus the Signature series, and it is targeted at the home office and gaming markets. So clearly, given the shift that's going on in the entire world right now, not only just to work from home, but it's to everything at home. It's not just working, but it's your family interactions, your birthday parties are on the screen, your gaming's on the screen, all of that stuff is really just, it's screen time more so everywhere. So we accelerated the development of that product and got it finished and ready to release very soon.
Yeah, I know we agreed, in fact, to embargo this interview until your launch day so that you could talk to us a little bit about what you're doing. You mentioned everyone's staying home. So how has COVID impacted Altwork?
Yeah, so really interesting question. It's very unknown to be in a so-called office furniture business right now. And that's one of the categories that people put us in. However, um, we look at ourselves as we're really the best way to work with your computer in our view. We're trying to bring the business class experience from an airplane with your computer into your home or office. And what we've had, some resistance from people saying, oh, well, we have cubicles here. How are they going to fit in? How about this? And then when people got home, they said, well, I'm the decision maker and I'm just doing this because I'm spending way too much time. So that's what we're seeing. We got that over and over. And what's been interesting for us is we've seen the data. We know the data on e-commerce supports this, that desks and office chairs have really had strong growth in the last few weeks because of this. People look like they're looking into the tea leaves. And if you have the kind of job that can be done at a computer at home, I'm now listening to people. We delivered to a customer today who said, I don't know when I'm going back to the office. Right now, I'm thinking 2021. So yes, technically that's only 6-7 months away, but I don't think that person is thinking January. So no one knows where we're going to go through this. That uncertainty is very difficult to plan a business, but it's also accelerating a shift that we've certainly seen going on for the last several years, which is people with screen type jobs, which is more and more of the world. They're spending more and more of their time doing some portion of it at home. Maybe not every day, but some portion of it.
Right. And certainly during this crisis where people are spending all their time there and for a long time, it makes so much sense to put some investment into improving the home workstation, the ergonomics. You don't want to be spending 6 months with a laptop literally in your lap.
And there's another thing that's going on. So my wife and I at our place used to share our Alt Workstation because the chances of us being, quote, at home all day, working at the same day was not likely. And the first thing we did after the shelter in place said, well, we're going to have to figure out getting another Alt Workstation. And there's something that's been really interesting for us is the Alt Workstation provides a signal to the other person that you're at work or not at work. Some people have the luxury of having a closed door private office that they can close the door. When I'm in this office, I'm at work. Many people don't exactly have that. And when you're at the kitchen table with your laptop, are you interruptible? Are you shopping? Or are you working? And if you're interrupted or walk behind them in the Zoom meeting, it feels very unprofessional. So the Alt Workstation, a lot of people think it is larger than it really is. It takes up about, it's 18 square feet when it's fully closed up, which is kind of the size of a large desk, not including the chair and the space around it to push back. Most people are using about a 5 foot by 2.5 foot desk and then 2.5 feet behind minimum to push back. But that doesn't look right and it doesn't move around very easily. The Alt Workstation has the unique capability of saying, here's my office area for working. I'm super comfortable, but when I'm here, I'm working. And then when I go to the couch, you know what? That's our family time, or that means I'm trying to be a person within the family that I'm in. That's becoming really important to some of our customers.
Interesting. Yeah, that social signaling, because, and I'm sure even more with kids, knowing this is I'm at work versus I'm accessible. Now, I also know that you have supply lines coming out of China. How did this whole situation affect that?
Yeah, so if you want to talk about the high interest that I've had in this pandemic from the beginning of time of it, obviously it heavily impacted travel in that area of China. Our factory was nowhere close to the Wuhan province, but everybody was watching it. I was literally watching it every day. A lot of the people that I was peers with were not paying attention to it at all. And so we watched that happen. Obviously, it's very difficult to set up a factory to build quality product at the volume you need it. And so I was highly personally interested in making sure that was good throughout this process. I got to watch how the factory dealt with it and how long it took them to get back and up and running. It was in many ways surprisingly quick, but it was definitely an uncertain time. I feel like we're going to be in a similar situation where there's an unknown that makes planning difficult. And I had to deal with that overseas. Now, in addition, that wasn't the only problem, because we call our customers alt workers. We have alt workers all over the world. And some of our customers have watched their packages sitting in a port for weeks because local delivery won't deliver. We all know some of the issues that have impacted air travel, and when air travel is impacted, international air cargo is impacted. And so we had a bunch of difficult times with that too. You don't feel like you're a global business as a small startup business, but when something global happens, all of a sudden you're seeing it from all over.
Interesting. Now, when you first launched Altwork, it went viral. It got a huge amount of attention, lots of coverage. What did you do to engineer that?
Great question, because I'd never done it before. And an interesting question. So one, I'm going to say right out, I'm going to tell you what I think happened. Maybe somebody else sees it differently. But we decided we're thinly capitalized. We wanted to be very capital efficient in the marketing launch. It's a cliche for entrepreneurs to overspend on marketing and lose the company because of it. So we decided to focus up on press as our main launch vehicle. And we had kept the Alt Workstation development very, very secret for a very long time. And we knew that we had a really positive reaction. People would use words like, wow, oh, that's incredible, I got to try this, right? We knew there was an impact that just seeing the Alt Workstation made, right?
Yeah, I've certainly heard that from my friends who I've shown pictures and videos.
And the other thing that we found that I think was really unique is we had a lot of people tell us, oh, I've seen that in movies before. And when you're the inventor or one of the inventors, you get to look them dead in the eye and say, no, you have not, because it hasn't been in a movie. But, with all due respect, what people expected it to be in movies. And there have been things like it, et cetera. You can look at some of the Matrix rigs and stuff like that. And of course we get the Wall-E jokes and the robot legs, metal legs jokes. Those are all fun. But at the end of the day, I think what was really important for us is it was visually exciting, but it was expected in a way that people said, why hasn't this been here before? So that made us unique. I'm not going to pretend that we were smart enough to say A plus B made that happen. So we then did, with the help of a PR firm, we then did a series of embargoed outreach. We had to get the product in front of people. We had to transport it across the country. It was really quite a challenge to get this done. We did about 12 actual interviews. Obviously, we pitched a huge number of people, more than that, but we did 12 actual interviews. And the reason I know that is because I had tried to ask some of friends of mine that were experienced in this kind of work. And I said, what should we expect? If our PR firm has done a good job, what is good in terms of number of articles to come out with us? We did 12 interviews. And they said, look, if they did a very good job, if you guys did a good job in your interviews, you should expect a 75% conversion rate. So that's 9 articles. We're like, okay, I get it. So we got together that morning. The embargo lifted, I think, at 9 or 10 a.m. And it was a beautiful sunny day in San Francisco. And we all went. There's nothing as giddy as you'll be launching your product that's been in stealth for years and years, and you'll never be more nervous because the die is cast and you have no idea what's going to happen that day.
Right.
A terrible news event might happen, man-made or otherwise, and it's all over. So the embargo lifted. And we had article come out, and we had customers calling in. Then we started having articles being written about articles that were written for people that we never interviewed. And by 6 p.m. that night, we had 19 articles out. Now, in an
Wow.
interesting piece of folklore, of course, I was also sick as a dog because you're always exhausted before the launch, right?
Right, right.
And so I was doing celebratory shots of Dayquil, good times. And I made it to 6 p.m. that night, and we had a great time. We all congratulated ourselves. Things were still going in. It went as good as you could have hoped. Um, and I went to bed, woke up to a text message from our PR firm and said, "Hey, you guys are on Good Morning America," and or the Today Show. I guess I think it was the Today Show. We had never pitched them. They did a full. They got all of our talking points. They had all of our pictures. They made the dentist chair joke, which we get a lot, and we couldn't have asked for that to be a better capstone. I opened up my computer and you could see inquiries and orders go around the world as the sun went around the world. So that's what it's like to really go viral, from a news launch point of view. And that was at that time. That was October of 2015. The world's different now. I don't know if that would happen again, but at that time, that was as good as we could have hoped for, we thought.
So with this new product coming out, how are you trying to recapture that lightning?
Yeah. So one, I don't know that we can because of the timing. So I don't know if that's even possible.
Right. Clearly, you
Um,
can't go on a road show with the chair all over the country this time.
well, and also we're launching a new model that is targeted to a portion of our customers that we think will really appreciate it, and it'll be more accessible to them. However, that's not the same as having something come from nothing. It's not a 0 to 1. It's really important for the growth of the company. It's really important for our customers. It's going to make a lot of people happy, and that's important to us. Um, what also I don't know is if we would have done this, say, 12 months ago, when work from home was a thing that people talked about wanting to do and wishing that their company would support it more than they do. And now Google announced a few days ago that they're going to start supporting home office equipment buys for their employees. Obviously, the big companies have said some of our people don't actually ever have to come back if they don't want to.
Right.
We know a number of smaller companies that are interested in making Alt Workstations an alternative for their employees because they want to keep their employees safe, happy, productive, and they see it as a retention methodology. And if they're working from home, these offices cost a lot of money to operate. So some of the people have done the math to figure out that a good home office and supporting that for their employees is cheaper than a daily lunch program or daily breakfast, lunch, and dinner program.
Right. A lot of these .coms are doing a huge amount of extras and benefits that they don't need to pay for. And of course, they're in San Francisco where the real estate rents are completely absurd as well.
All agreed. You can do the math, and some of our enterprise customers have come to us and told us they have done the math, and we understand it. So we're happy to support that part of it also. So there's a shift that's going on now that I can't predict how this new product will be received when we launch.
Well, would you be open to having us follow up with you in a few weeks to sort of get the update on that?
That'll be interesting. I'll tell you, one of the most interesting experiences I had doing some training at Stanford was there's the business cases where you got to read everything and what happened, and effectively everybody agreed with it. And then we got the stack of business cases where you only got a third of the story and everybody had to write down their answers about what they would do. And then you got the next piece of information. So I'm happy to talk about what we expect to do now I think we've done a lot of good things, but we will have to see what happens on launch day.
I'll be excited. I'll definitely be watching to see how that goes. And perhaps we can also talk about sort of some of your other experiences on the other side of the table as an investor and chair of the North Bay Angels.
Happy to do that also. Happy.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate your time and good luck with the launch.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching this episode of Feel the Boot. I hope you found it useful and interesting, and if so, do the usual, like, subscribe, ring the bell. But I would particularly appreciate it if you would share this with other entrepreneurs that you know. I'm hoping that Feel the Boot becomes a community that makes all of us better and more successful. Till next time, ciao.